The wind howled through the ruins of the forest. Ashes fell like gray snow. Trees stood broken and black, their branches clawing at the night sky. A man walked alone through the smoke, a soldier named Ethan Cole. His boots crunched against glass and metal as he moved carefully, scanning the shadows with his flashlight. The war between humans and the alien race, called the Draelith, had ended only 2 days ago. But peace was just a word. The world was still bleeding. The ground still trembled from distant explosions. Ethan had stayed behind when others left. He said it was to search for survivors. But truthfully, he just couldn't leave the silence. He stopped near a burned transport ship. The air smelled of melted steel and something worse, something rotten. He sighed, rubbing his tired eyes. The beam of his flashlight cut across the wreckage, revealing twisted metal and scorched armor. He had seen this scene 100 times. Then something moved, a soft sound. Not the groan of metal. Not the wind. It was crying, weak, faint, childlike. Ethan froze. His hand tightened around his rifle. He looked toward the sound, somewhere near the fallen trees. "Hello?" His voice echoed. "Is anyone there?" The crying stopped. He took a step forward, then another. The forest was thick with smoke. Shadows danced in the light of his lamp. The ground was slippery with mud. He could barely see 5 feet ahead. But he kept walking. Then he saw it, a small figure huddled against a log, barely bigger than a child. Skin pale, no, not pale. Glowing faintly blue, like the reflection of moonlight on water. Ethan aimed his rifle out of instinct. His heart pounded in his chest. The figure looked up, startled, and for a moment, he forgot to breathe. It was a girl. But not human. Her eyes were silver, shimmering with tears. Her hair was white, almost transparent. She was trembling, soaked from the rain. Her clothes were torn and burned. Her small hands clutched something shiny, a strange metallic sphere that pulsed with soft light. When she saw the gun, she flinched. "Please, don't shoot," she whispered in broken English. "Please." Her voice wasn't like a machine. It wasn't like a monster. It was soft, scared, fragile. Ethan's finger hesitated on the trigger. He lowered the gun slightly. "You're one of them," he said. "Draelith." She nodded slowly. Her breath came out in small trembling clouds. I didn't mean to be here," she said. "The ship crashed. Everyone gone." Ethan looked around. The ship wreckage behind her was alien design, smooth curves, dark metal, glowing marks along its surface. Inside it, he could see bodies, Draelith soldiers, lifeless, smoke rising from their armor. The girl was the only one alive. "Are you hurt?" he asked. Against every rule in his training, she didn't answer. She only shivered harder, clutching her knees. Her lips were blue. Her body was shaking from cold and fear. Ethan sighed. He looked up at the dark sky. The rain was coming harder now. He muttered something under his breath, slung his rifle behind his back, and took off his military coat. He crouched down, wrapping it around her. She gasped softly, eyes wide. "Why?" she asked. "Because you'll freeze," he said simply. For a long moment, they stared at each other, human and alien. Enemies of war, sitting in the rain, surrounded by death and silence. Then, without another word, Ethan lifted her in his arms. She weighed almost nothing, too light, too fragile. He could feel the faint hum of her heartbeat against his chest. It was not like a human's, a soft vibration, like the rhythm of a machine mixed with a pulse. He walked through the storm, heading for the old outpost on the hill. Every step echoed through the forest. Every sound made him glance behind. He couldn't shake the feeling that someone, or something, was watching. The outpost was a crumbling concrete bunker half buried under vines. Ethan kicked the door open and stepped inside. It was cold, dusty, but safe. He set the girl down near the fire pit and dropped a few old pieces of wood into it. After a few clicks of his lighter, a small flame came to life. The warmth spread slowly through the room. The girl stared at it, wide-eyed, as if she had never seen fire before. "You can warm your hands," Ethan said, taking off his gloves. "It won't hurt you." She hesitated, then reached out carefully, feeling the heat with wonder. "It is alive," she whispered. Ethan smiled a little. "Yeah, feels that way." He pulled a can of ration food from his pack and opened it. "Here," he said, handing it to her. She looked confused. He took a spoonful and tasted it himself to show it was safe. After a moment, she took it, tiny hands trembling, and began to eat slowly. "What's your name?" he asked. She looked up at him, her silver eyes shining in the dim firelight. "Lyra," she said softly. "Lyra," Ethan repeated. "Pretty name." She tilted her head. "And you?" "Ethan." She tried to say it. "Ethan." He chuckled quietly. "Close enough." They sat in silence for a while. Rain tapped against the roof. The fire cracked softly. Somewhere in the distance, thunder rolled across the mountains. Ethan looked at her again. Her skin was glowing faintly now, pulsing with her heartbeat. He had never seen anything like it. "Lyra," he said carefully, "where's your family?" "Your people?" Her face darkened. She looked at the floor. "Gone," she said. "They were running, ship. Hit by your weapons, mother. Far away. Your mother's alive?" Lyra nodded. "She will come for me." "That's good," Ethan said, smiling slightly. "Then you'll be safe." But she looked up at him suddenly, her eyes full of fear. "No," she said. "You don't understand. If she comes here, you die." Ethan froze. "What do you mean?" She didn't answer. She just hugged her knees tighter and whispered, "Mother angry. Mother powerful. She will burn this world if she must." Ethan felt a cold weight in his chest. He had heard of the Draelith queen, Varathea, a ruler said to command armies across the stars. Entire colonies had been destroyed by her will. If this girl was telling the truth, and she was that queen's daughter, then he wasn't rescuing an orphan. He was hiding the most dangerous being in the galaxy. Hours passed. The fire grew dim. Ethan sat near the doorway, gun resting beside him, but his eyes kept drifting toward the sleeping girl. She looked peaceful now, wrapped in his coat, the faint glow of her skin lighting the dark room. He couldn't understand why he had helped her. Every law, every order from his commanders told him to kill any Draelith on sight. But when he saw her in the rain, something inside him refused. Maybe it was her fear. Maybe it was her voice. Maybe it was just the last spark of humanity left in him. He sighed. "What have I done?" he muttered. Suddenly, static. The old radio on the table crackled to life. A deep hum filled the room. Ethan grabbed it quickly. "Command? This is Cole, Outpost 47. Do you copy?" No answer, only a strange, whispering noise. Then, a voice. Not human. A cold, echoing tone. "She is here. The child must not live." Ethan's blood ran cold. "Who is this?" He shouted into the radio. But it went dead. He turned toward Lyra. She was awake now, eyes wide with fear. "They found me," she whispered. Ethan rushed to the window. Through the storm clouds, he saw lights moving, blue and red beams cutting across the sky. Alien drones. Searching, he turned back. "We have to move." Lyra shook her head. "Too late. They come fast." Ethan grabbed his rifle and pulled her up. "We're not staying here to die." He led her through a side tunnel that exited into the woods. Rain poured harder, drenching them both. The forest glowed in flashes of lightning. The drones buzzed overhead, scanning the ground with beams of light. Ethan pressed Lyra against a rock, covering her with his body as one beam swept over them. For a moment, the light hovered, then moved on. He exhaled sharply. His heart was pounding like a drum. Lyra looked at him, her silver eyes full of worry. "You protect me," she said softly. He nodded. "Yeah, guess I do." She smiled faintly. "You are strange. Human. Story of my life," he muttered. They kept moving until they reached a small cave hidden behind fallen trees. Ethan checked inside. It was empty, dry, and deep enough to hide in. They crawled inside. Ethan leaned against the wall, catching his breath. Lyra sat beside him, still trembling. Outside, the sound of engines roared louder. Shadows of massive alien ships passed over the forest canopy. Lyra hugged her knees and whispered, "She's here." Ethan turned to her. "Who?" She looked at him with tears in her glowing eyes. "My mother." The ground began to shake. The sound of thunder was no longer from the sky. It came from engines. A beam of red light cut through the clouds, turning night into day. Trees cracked and burned. Ethan shielded his eyes, grabbing his rifle. He could see the outline of a ship, enormous, majestic, terrifying, descending slowly through the smoke. Lyra crawled to the cave entrance, whispering in her alien tongue, voice trembling with emotion. Ethan didn't understand her words, but he saw the pain in her face. She wasn't just afraid of being found. She was afraid of what would happen after. He crouched beside her and whispered, "I won't let anyone hurt you. Not even her." Lyra looked at him, a strange expression on her face, like she wanted to believe it, but couldn't. Then the red light flared again. The air trembled with a sound like 1,000 voices. Lyra whispered one final sentence, before everything went silent. "You don't know what you've done, Ethan Cole." And then, the screen fades to black. The sky burned red. Ethan Cole stood at the cave's entrance, staring at the storm above. The alien ship, massive, silent, and glowing like a second moon, hovered over the forest. Trees bent under the pressure of its engines. The rain turned to mist from the heat. He could feel it in his bones, the presence of something ancient and powerful. Lyra crouched beside him, her glowing skin pulsing faster, like her heart was racing. Her silver eyes were filled with both fear and sorrow. "She's here," she whispered. "My mother." Ethan turned to her. "If she's your mother, maybe she'll listen." "No." Lyra's voice cracked. "You don't understand. She doesn't listen. She orders." She looked up at the burning sky. "When the Empress comes, people die." Ethan swallowed hard. He had seen powerful alien warlords before, but this one, the Draelith Empress Varathea, was a legend. The kind of name soldiers whispered around fires. The kind of being whose anger could erase entire cities. And now, her daughter was sitting beside him, wrapped in his coat. The forest was filled with strange sounds, hums, clicks, and deep vibrations that made the air shimmer. Ethan peered through the rain. Small flying machines, smooth and silver, moved between the trees. They were searching, scanning, hunting. Ethan knew they'd find the cave soon. He turned to Lyra. "We can't stay here." She shook her head slowly. "You can't run from her. Watch me." Before she could argue, Ethan grabbed his rifle and motioned for her to follow. They slipped out the back of the cave and moved deeper into the forest, their feet splashing in mud. The rain washed away their tracks, but the searchlights from the ships cut through the trees like blades. For every step they took, Ethan's mind screamed questions. Who was she really? What was she hiding? And why did her mother want her back so badly? They reached the old river, wide and dark, water roaring from the storm. Ethan stopped to catch his breath. Lyra was trembling again, her glow dimming. "Are you okay?" He asked. She nodded weakly. "I can feel her calling me." Calling you? Ethan frowned. Lyra touched her chest. We are connected. All Draelith can hear her voice. But I am her blood. When she calls, I feel pain. She winced, clutching her side. Ethan noticed strange marks glowing beneath her skin, swirling golden lines that pulsed like light trapped under glass. What is that? He asked. Lyra hesitated. Then, with a shaky breath, she whispered, It's what she wants. They hid under an old bridge as drones passed above. Lightning flashed across the sky, revealing the reflection of alien ships hovering like silent predators. When the noise faded, Ethan turned back to her. You need to tell me the truth, Lyra. Why are they after you? Her eyes filled with tears. Because I'm not just her daughter. I'm her weapon. Ethan's stomach dropped. What do you mean, weapon? Lyra stared at the river as if afraid to look at him. Long ago, our kind found something. Older than both our races. A machine buried beneath the stars. My mother believed it could give her control over every world, every system. But it needed a key, a living key. She looked at her trembling hands. She made that key. She made me. Ethan stepped back. You mean she? Yes, Lyra whispered. She changed me before I was born. My blood carries the code to wake the ancient machine. She wants me to return, to finish what she started. For a long moment, Ethan couldn't speak. The rain drowned out everything but the sound of his heartbeat. You escaped, he said finally. You ran. Lyra nodded. I didn't want to destroy. I didn't want to be her weapon, so I ran. And your people shot down my ship. Ethan looked away, guilt crawling inside him. That was us, he said quietly. I'm sorry. She smiled faintly through her tears. You didn't know. No one does. Suddenly, the ground shook again. Ethan peeked over the edge of the bridge. More alien soldiers were landing. Their armor shimmered with blue light, their helmets featureless and smooth. Ethan grabbed Lyra's hand. Come on. They ran through the forest, dodging between trees, stumbling over roots and stones. Bolts of plasma burned through the rain behind them. One hit a tree beside Ethan. It exploded into fire. He pulled Lyra into another hollow log, covering her mouth gently to keep her quiet. The soldiers marched past, their alien voices echoing through the storm. When they were gone, Ethan leaned his head against the wood, breathing hard. Lyra whispered, Why do you help me? Ethan looked at her. Mud covered his face. Blood dripped from a cut above his eye. But his voice was calm. Because no one else would. She blinked at him, confused. Even when you know I'm dangerous? Everyone's dangerous when they're scared, he said. You're just a kid. Her small hand touched his arm, warm, trembling. You're strange, Ethan Cole. He smiled slightly. I've been told. They walked for hours, deeper into the mountains. The rain finally stopped. Mist rose from the trees, glowing faintly under the alien lights above. Ethan knew they couldn't keep running forever. They needed shelter, food, and answers. At dawn, they reached a cliff overlooking the valley. Below them, the wreckage of Lyra's ship still burned faintly, surrounded by hundreds of alien drones. Ethan sat down, exhausted. So what now? Lyra was quiet for a long time. Then she turned to him. There's something I need to show you. She led him along a narrow path into the mountains. The air grew colder, sharper. The sun's light broke through the clouds, turning the mist golden. Finally, they reached a hidden cave, this one not made of stone, but something else. The walls shimmered like glass. Strange glowing veins ran through the ground. Ethan stopped. What is this place? Lyra smiled sadly. It's where I was born. She walked to the center, where a pool of clear water reflected light like stars. When she placed her hand over it, symbols appeared on the surface, bright, ancient, alive. This is part of the old machine, she said. One of its hearts. It's sleeping now, but if my mother finds it, she will wake it. Ethan knelt beside her. What happens if she does? Lyra looked into the water. Then your world and mine will both end. Ethan stared at the strange glowing patterns. They pulsed, almost as if reacting to him. When his hand brushed the surface, a sudden flash filled his mind. Visions of fire, destruction, endless stars burning. He saw Earth falling. He saw the Empress standing above it. Her eyes cold and perfect, then her voice deep, echoing. Ancient, whispered in his head, the human who touches my child will bring the end of both our worlds. He jerked his hand away. Gasping, Lyra grabbed him, panic in her voice. You touched it. Why did you touch it? I didn't mean to, Ethan said, still shaking. What did I just see? She knows now, Lyra whispered. She saw you. Outside, the sky darkened again. The ship above the forest turned. Its engines roared. Lyra fell to her knees, clutching her head. She's coming. She's coming here. Ethan knelt beside her, holding her shoulders. Listen to me, we'll find a way to stop her. Tears ran down her cheeks. You can't stop her. She's a god to our people. She made the stars bow to her will. Ethan shook his head. Then maybe it's time someone told her no. Lyra stared at him through her tears, shocked by the defiance in his voice. You would fight her, for me? I already am, he said simply. Moments later, the ground began to quake. The cave trembled as light poured through its entrance. Ethan stood, gun in hand, though he knew it wouldn't matter. A massive shadow fell across the rocks. Lyra looked up, whispering, Mother. The voice that answered was soft, but it shook the earth. Child of mine, you run from me and hide behind a human? The light grew blinding. Ethan shielded his eyes. A tall figure stepped from the glow, graceful, terrifying, her armor black and silver, her eyes like suns. The air bent around her presence. Even the cave seemed to bow. This was Varathea, the Empress of the Draelith. Lyra's mother. Ethan raised his rifle. Stay back. The Empress turned her head slowly, her gaze landing on him like a weight. A fragile creature, she said. Flesh and bone. Yet you dare raise a weapon to me? Ethan stood firm, though his knees trembled. You hurt her, and you'll find out exactly what I dare. For the first time, Varathea smiled. It wasn't kind. Bold, she said. For something so small. She extended her hand toward Lyra. Come, child. This one has done enough. Lyra shook her head, tears falling. No, you'll make me do it again. I won't destroy anyone. You were not made to choose, the Empress said coldly. You were made to obey. Ethan stepped between them. She's not your weapon. She's your daughter. Something flickered in the Empress's eyes, a shadow of pain. But it vanished as quickly as it came. You speak of love, she said. You know nothing of it. Maybe not, Ethan said. But I know fear when I see it. You're afraid of her, afraid of what she might become if she's free. The silence that followed was heavier than thunder. Varathea's expression hardened. You have touched what is forbidden, human. You have changed what cannot be changed. The cave began to shake. Rocks fell from the ceiling. Ethan pulled Lyra behind him. Then, in a voice filled with sorrow, the Empress said, You have chosen your fate. A beam of light erupted from her hand, blinding, white-hot. Ethan dove forward, pushing Lyra out of the way. The beam hit the wall, exploding in flame. When the light cleared, the Empress was gone. Ethan coughed through the smoke, heart pounding. What just happened? Lyra stared at him, eyes wide with terror. She's not gone, she whispered. She's preparing. Preparing for what? Lyra's voice trembled. For war. The world was silent again. The rain had stopped, the sky had turned to ash, and the wind carried only the scent of smoke and metal. Ethan Cole stood inside the shattered cave, his arm bleeding where the blast had grazed him. The walls still glowed from the energy that had torn through them. Beside him, Lyra was kneeling, trembling, staring at the ground where her mother's light had vanished. "She's gone," Ethan said, breathing hard. Lyra shook her head. "No, she never leaves. She watches." Ethan looked toward the mouth of the cave. The forest outside was burning. Strange symbols glowed in the sky, alien letters, vast and moving, forming a circle of light that stretched for miles. It was like the heavens themselves were being rewritten. He felt the hum of energy in the air. The Empress wasn't gone. She was gathering her power. Lyra looked up, eyes wide with fear. "She's calling the fleet." Ethan gritted his teeth. "Then we stop her before they get here." Lyra turned to him in disbelief. "You can't stop her. You're human. She commands suns." "Maybe," Ethan said, loading his rifle. "But I can still pull a trigger." They left the cave as the first alien ships appeared above the horizon, long, sharp, and glowing red from the engines. The ground shook under the pressure of their descent. Ethan and Lyra ran down the mountain trail, the air growing thick with static. Every few seconds, bright flashes lit up the sky, beams tearing through the clouds as the fleet formed a massive circle over the valley. At the bottom of the slope stood an ancient structure, half stone, half alien metal, buried for centuries beneath vines. Lyra stopped, staring at it in shock. "The heart of Vara," she whispered. "This is where she was born. This is where she ended." Ethan looked up at the towering monument. "And what happens if she activates it?" Lyra swallowed hard. "It will send a signal, a pulse that will wake the old machine. The one buried beneath the stars. It will obey her, and everything alive will become hers." Ethan stared at her. "Everything?" She nodded. "Every mind, every thought, every free will." Gone. The air vibrated suddenly, and a voice, deep and echoing, filled the air. "You cannot hide from destiny, my child." A blinding column of light struck the monument. The ground cracked. Stones floated upward, spinning slowly in the air. The very air felt heavy, alive. From the center of the light, Varathea appeared, taller than before, her form glowing like liquid silver, her eyes burning gold. Her presence made the world itself bow. Lyra fell to her knees, whispering, "Mother." Ethan pulled her up, standing between them. "Stay behind me." The Empress's voice was calm, but it carried the weight of a god. "You defy your own blood for this creature of dirt and decay." Lyra's voice broke. "He saved me, Mother. He showed me kindness, something you never did." The Empress tilted her head, studying Ethan. "Kindness," she said softly. "A fragile illusion before the end." "Maybe," Ethan said. "But it's still stronger than fear." The Empress extended her hand. "Give her to me, human. She does not belong to you." Ethan didn't move. "She belongs to no one." Something flickered in the Empress's eyes, a memory maybe. Then her expression hardened. "You cannot protect her from what she is." A beam of energy shot from her hand. Ethan barely jumped aside. The ground exploded behind him. He rolled, firing his rifle, useless against her armor, but enough to distract. Lyra screamed, "Stop! You'll kill him." Varathea turned her gaze on her daughter. "He is already dead." He touched the heart. It marked him. Ethan glanced at his hand. Faint golden lines pulsed beneath his skin, like the marks on Lyra's body. "What does that mean?" Lyra's eyes widened in horror. "It means she bound you. You're connected now to her power." Ethan staggered, feeling the warmth spreading through his veins. He could feel her, the Empress, inside his mind. A voice whispered, calm and cruel. You see now? You cannot fight me. You are mine. He fell to his knees, clutching his head. Lyra rushed to him, placing her hands on his face. Her touch was cool, glowing. Ethan, listen to me. Don't let her in. I can't. His voice broke as images flooded his mind. Fire, death, the destruction of Earth. Lyra held him tighter. You told me I could choose. Now it's your turn. Her voice reached him through the storm inside his head, soft, pure, human. He looked into her eyes, and for a moment, the noise stopped. He could hear only her. Then something happened. The marks on both of them began to glow brighter, gold merging with blue. Their energy pulsed together. Varathea stepped back, confusion crossing her perfect face. What is this? Lyra turned toward her mother, her small body trembling but glowing brighter and brighter. You made me your weapon. But I choose not to destroy. I choose to protect. The Empress's voice grew sharp. You cannot defy your creation. Yes, I can, Lyra said, her voice steady now. Because I learned something you never did. Ethan looked up. And what's that? Lyra smiled faintly. Love. A surge of light burst from her chest, spreading across the valley like a sunrise. The alien ships overhead flickered, their engines dying one by one. The energy that filled the air twisted, cracked, and then exploded outward. A wave of pure silence. Varathea raised her hands, trying to contain it, but even she struggled. The light wrapped around her, pulling at the golden threads of her power. She screamed, not in pain, but in anger. You don't understand what you've done. You've awakened it. The ground split open. The monument behind her cracked apart, revealing a massive sphere buried deep within the earth, pulsing with ancient energy. The machine. The thing both of them feared. Lyra's glow dimmed. No, Mother, stop it. Varathea's eyes blazed. It's too late. Your defiance has broken the seal. The sphere rose slowly, humming with impossible power. Symbols flared across its surface, bright enough to blind. The air turned weightless. Ethan grabbed Lyra, pulling her back as rocks floated into the sky. Tell me how to stop it. He shouted. Lyra stared at the machine, tears in her eyes. There's only one way. It needs a life, a heart bound by both codes. Ethan understood. You mean one of us? She nodded. If it's me, she'll still win. But if it's you... He shook his head. No way. I'm not letting you die for this. Lyra smiled sadly. You already chose to die when you helped me. Now let me choose too. Before he could stop her, she stepped forward into the light. The Empress reached out, screaming, Lyra, no! For the first time, her voice wasn't a command. It was fear. Real fear. Lyra turned to her mother, her body glowing brighter than ever. Goodbye, Mother. She pressed her hands against the sphere. The energy burst around her, golden and blue spiraling together. The hum grew louder, then stopped. Silence. The light faded. The machine died. The ships above the sky fell still. The fires went out. And Lyra was gone. Ethan collapsed to his knees. The marks on his hand faded. The air was still. Varathea stood motionless, staring at the empty space where her daughter had stood. For a long moment, the Queen of the Stars said nothing. Then, she turned to Ethan, and for the first time she looked human. Her voice trembled. You cared for her. Ethan nodded, unable to speak. She changed you, Varathea whispered. And she changed me. She looked toward the dead machine. Perhaps that is her legacy. She raised her hand, and a faint light wrapped around Ethan's wounds. They closed slowly, leaving only faint scars. When your world rebuilds, tell them this, she said softly. The war is over. Before Ethan could reply, she began to fade, her form turning into light. He called out, What about you? Her golden eyes met his. I must find her, somewhere beyond stars. And then she was gone. Days later, the battlefield was quiet. Human rescue ships moved through the forests, searching for survivors. They found Ethan near the ruins of the monument, sitting in silence, staring at the sky. He was alive, but changed. His eyes seemed older, wiser, carrying the glow of something beyond human understanding. When they asked what happened, he simply said, "A child saved us all." That night, under a clear sky, Ethan stood alone. The stars shimmered above him, the same stars that once carried war. Now they looked peaceful. He touched the old military coat still wrapped around his shoulders, torn, burned, but warm. And then softly, a sound came from his radio. Static, then a voice he knew. "Ethan, can you hear me?" He froze. "Lyra?" "We'll meet again, Protector." The signal faded. The stars flickered once, like a wink, and were still. Ethan smiled through his tears. "I'll be waiting." He turned his eyes to the sky, where two distant lights, one blue, one gold, slowly crossed paths, and the screen faded to black. The end.